Hello and welcome to the next instalment of these thoughts while I'm walking the dog. And today, over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to save society and fix all its ills. Now, Patient Zero is the trope of many a zombie movie, the first person to be infected with the deadly virus that is destroying the world. And sometimes Patient Zero must be killed to stop the virus spreading. Sometimes Patient Zero is the means to find the cure. Now, whatever angle the story takes, the solution lies with Patient Zero. And a society has its own Patient Zero, a way by which many of its ills can be remedied. Patient Zero is its system of tax. Now, taxation, like death, is sadly inevitable. In all the years since man settled on the fertile plains between the Tigris and the Euphrates, there has never been a civilization without taxation. In fact, a sense of duty to the greater collective probably existed in the hunter-gatherer tribes that predated civilization. Yet, there have been good systems and bad systems. And get your system of tax right, and a healthy and happy civilization, even a great one, will follow. Get it wrong, and you get into no end of problems. History is littered with examples of injudicious or inequitable taxation having terrible consequences. It lurks near the heart of virtually every great revolution or revolt. No taxation without representation was the cry of the American revolutionaries. Punitive taxes led to the French to rise up against their decadent leaders in 1789, and the English peasants to do the same back in 1381. Perhaps most explicitly, the Philippine Revolution began with the cry of Pugad Lawin, exhorting rebels to tear up their tax certificates. From Spartacus to Boudica to Robin Hood to Mahatma Gandhi, the greatest rebels in history were usually tax rebels. Even today, there is evidence of this just across the Channel. Heavy fuel taxes have resulted in the riots of the Gilets jaunes. A society's destiny, whether its people will be prosperous or poor, free or subordinated, is determined by the way it is taxed. You shape a society by the way you tax it. And one measure of the freedom of a society is the degree to which it's taxed. How much of a labourer's labour is his to keep? How much is taken from him? The way a society is taxed speaks volumes about that society. And in the enlightened civilization that was ancient Athens, taxes were voluntary. Liturgy was the means by which the rich shared their wealth with the rest of the city. Not only did the rich pay for essential public works, whether it was a bridge or a warship, they carried out those works as well, on their own terms. And it meant that the works tended to be carried out well and economically, as both the liturgist's reputation and his wallet were on the line. At the turn of the 20th century in Western Europe, tax was around 10% of GDP, slightly lower in the US. And this dates back to the historical norm of the tithe, which is a tax that goes all the way back to ancient Mesopotamia. And by the way, they think we use this historical figure of 10% because we have 10 fingers. 2 world wars, however, ended the halcyon days of low taxes. And in an anarchy with total freedom, you have 0 taxes. In authoritarian or totalitarian societies, however, Soviet Russia or North Korea, ordinary people have virtually no ownership of their labour, their produce, or their profit. Government takes it all. The developed world today sits somewhere in the middle of those 2 extremes. Excluding inflation, itself a form of tax, in the UK, nearly half of everything you will ever earn over the course of your life is taken from you in taxes. The most expensive purchase you ever make in your life is not a house, as many believe, but your government. In France, the figure is an eye-watering 57%. No wonder the Gilets jaunes are so unhappy. Today, taxes permeate almost everything we do. There is barely an activity which doesn't involve taxation of some kind. There is one, but the bed you do it on is taxed. And the idea behind social democracy's high level of taxation is that wealth is redistributed to equalise life chances. But how successful has that redistribution been? Economic inequality is rampant. Every year, Oxfam put out incredible statistics. Just 8 men own the same wealth as half the world. Billionaire wealth rises at 6 times the speed of an ordinary worker's. A CEO makes in a day what his cleaner makes in a year. And so much of the unlevel playing field that is the 21st century developed world economy can be traced back to inequitable systems of tax. About the only way a young person starting out with nothing has to better his lot or her lot is through their labour, by working. And yet the worker pays the vast majority of taxes. Roughly 50% of government revenue in the developed world comes from income tax. And in the UK, this includes national insurance, with another 20% roughly from VAT. We tax labour constantly and heavily. The wealth of the super rich, however, does not derive from their labour. With the exception of a few star sportsmen and CEOs, it derives from the appreciation in the value of their companies, their land, their houses, their stocks, their shares, their bonds, their fine art, what economists call their assets. And these go untaxed, unless you sell. So, most don't. One group is taxed heavily, the other is not. Inequality is the inevitable result. Not only is the worker taxed heavily, he is paid in money that is losing its purchasing power, thanks to zero interest rate policies, quantitative easing, dubious measures of inflation, and all the other means by which governments debase money, and levy what Milton Friedman called the inflation tax. But these same assets that go untaxed, equities, houses, and so on, actually benefit from the debasement of currency as they appreciate in price. One lot pays, the other benefits. Modern tax systems, with a few notable exceptions such as Hong Kong and Singapore, are blighted with complexity. The UK is the worst offender. Its tax code is the longest in the world, 10 million words, 21,000 pages. The code is about 12 times the length of the Bible. 10 million words is more than most people read in their lifetime. The longer the code is, the more loopholes there are. One group has the resources to find the loopholes, especially multinationals, and exploit them. The rest of us don't, and so pay more on a proportional basis. The result is inequality. Hong Kong proved one of the most successful economies of the second half of the 20th century, going from shanty town to futuristic city-state in barely 50 years. It did so with taxation that never exceeded 14% of GDP. Only the very rich paid income taxes. On the other side of the coin, its education, health and transport systems are all superior to our own. Its tax code is 1.5% the length of the UK's. Yet it had one tax we don't have, a tax on land value. With 60 million acres and a population of 65 million, there is enough land in the UK for everybody, in theory, to have almost an acre each. Yet about 2/3 of UK land is owned by fewer than 6,000 people. In many cases, they receive subsidies for the land they own. The ownership of prime city centre real estate is the domain of the few, while an entire generation cannot afford anywhere to live. Yet houses don't cost a lot of money to build. Tax land, not labour. If a politician really wants to get to the root of society's ills and make them good, then he or she should focus all their efforts on tax reform. It is from our system of taxation today, bloated, inequitable, antiquated, that so many of society's ills emanate. But it is also in our system of taxation where the cure lies. Fix tax, and you are on your way to fixing society. The rest will take care of itself. Tax is patient zero. If only all the political effort that went into stopping Brexit had been expended on reforming taxation. Oh, what might have been. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe to my channel and please buy my book, Daylight Robbery, about the past, the present and the future of taxation. You won't regret it. It's very good.